Before Google Maps, finding your way in an unfamiliar city often meant unfolding a paper map, searching for streets, and trying to work out where you were. Today, you can simply look at your phone, see a blue dot, enter a destination, and get a route in seconds. But how did that simple blue dot become one of the most useful technologies in everyday life? The story begins with a small team of developers in Sydney, Australia. In the early 2000s, Lars Rasmussen, Jens Rasmussen, Noel Gordon, and Stephen Ma were working on technology that could make online maps faster and easier to explore. At the time, many digital maps felt more like static pages. You searched for a location, waited for the page to load, and looked at the result. The team wanted something different. They imagined a map that behaved more like a real digital application, something you could move around, zoom into, and explore. That idea became part of a startup called Where To Technologies. Then Google noticed what they were building. In 2004, Google acquired Where To Technologies, and the technology and team became part of Google's growing effort to build better online maps. In February 2005, Google Maps launched as a web-based mapping service, but creating a useful map was only the beginning. The bigger challenge was connecting enormous amounts of geographic information into one system. Roads had to be mapped, cities had to be divided into streets and locations, addresses and businesses had to be connected to geographic coordinates, and eventually, all of this information needed to work together in real time. Then came another crucial technology, GPS. GPS uses signals from satellites orbiting Earth. A device receives signals from multiple satellites and uses the timing of those signals to estimate its position. That information can then be placed onto a digital map, and that is where the blue dot comes in. The blue dot isn't magic. It represents the device's estimated location based on positioning information and other available signals. Once the system knows approximately where you are, another problem appears. You need to know where you're going. Enter a destination, and mapping algorithms can analyze the road network between your location and that destination. They can consider roads, distances, restrictions, and other available information to determine possible routes. But there's another problem. Roads don't stay the same. A route that is fast 1 minute can become slow a few minutes later because of traffic, road conditions, or other changes. Modern navigation systems can use traffic and other data to estimate changing travel conditions. If the original route becomes less efficient, the system can calculate an alternative. That familiar blue line can suddenly move onto another road. And all of this happens incredibly quickly. But Google Maps didn't stop with basic directions. Over time, Google added more layers of information and features, including satellite imagery, street view, public transportation information, business information, and traffic-related features. The map on your phone became much more than a map. It became a constantly evolving digital representation of the world around you. Think about what that means. A road in your neighborhood is represented as geographic data. Your phone can estimate where you are. Satellites provide positioning signals. Large databases contain information about roads and places. Algorithms analyze possible routes. Traffic information can change those calculations. And your phone turns all of that complexity into something incredibly simple: a blue dot, a line, and a destination. That is what makes Google Maps so interesting. The technology behind it is enormously complicated, but the experience is deliberately simple. You don't need to understand satellite positioning. You don't need to understand geographic databases. You don't need to understand routing algorithms. You simply ask one question: how do I get there? And within seconds, a system involving satellites, computers, geographic data, algorithms, and millions of mapped roads gives you an answer. What began with a small team trying to make online maps easier to explore eventually became part of a global navigation system used by people around the world. So, the next time you open Google Maps and see that little blue dot, remember what you're actually looking at. It's not just a dot on a screen, it's the visible result of satellites, software, maps, data, and decades of technological development working together to answer one incredibly simple question: where am I? And perhaps that's the most fascinating thing about technology. The most complicated systems can sometimes hide behind the simplest experiences,